Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here at Heartofindieradio, and we are so delighted to be bringing back a very special guest. This young lady has been with us before. She is now actually one of our signed featured artists with Heartofindieradio. Please join me in welcoming back Emmeline Gracie. Emmeline, welcome back.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Check out that beautiful smile, looking happy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, we are here to talk about this video that you have dropped that is just, it's just incredible. We've got to bring her back. We've got to talk about this because it's the best video I've ever seen on the topic of songwriting. And I'm so delighted it's one of our own that did it. So,
Thank you so much.
but for our listeners who may not know anything about you, you're from Germany, but you're now in Dublin, Ireland, right?
Yes, Dublin, Ireland.
Okay. And you've been writing songs since the age of 13.
Yeah, actually, I started writing songs earlier, but that was when they were terrible in German and kind of childish. But the later, yeah, late teens was when I properly started writing music.
And then really started writing in English at the age of 15, 16.
Yes, big change. But I always felt more home in English music. I always listened to English or American pop music actually when I was a kid. So it just felt intuitive to write in English. Attempted that when I was 13, but the language just wasn't there yet. So it took some time.
So how long have you been writing in English?
Since around, well, I think I tried actually when I was 13, but when I was 15, I went to the States to study there for a year, and that was what helped me word things in English a little bit more organically, and that's when I really felt songwriting kind of pieces coming together, and it started to be a bit more fluent and a tiny bit better.
And just being immersed in the language forces you to learn it, doesn't it?
Yes.
So let's talk about this video for just a second. It's so well thought out, and you mentioned early on in the video it's your first scripted video, and I'm so glad you did it that way because it's turned out so beautifully, so much imagery in this thing. So you talked about three different topics: inspiration, lyrics, and melody. So why don't we explore these one at a time? Talk about inspiration. When you are actually ready to write, what is your inspiration? What moves you to write?
What moves me to write, obviously, everything I'm saying in this video and here is completely subjective. As in songwriting, there's no right way to do anything. But I write about my own story. I can't put myself in someone else's narrative. That has never worked for me. It just never sounded authentic that way. So yeah, cliche, but I usually write about love, definitely relationships. In my life, I think human connection is my biggest inspiration. But in the video, I just go through some tools that that are that are a little bit more tangible, such as like visual inspiration using Pinterest boards, like actual visual boards with color textures on landscapes or whatever subjectively it is that inspires you as a songwriter, and just staring at that has helps me, especially during lockdown where there wasn't much to look at outside in the world, to create a mood board, a vision board per song, to kind of give me a vision or even a setting that I would like place myself in to write about, rather than trying to be in this small room, not being able to go out and coming up with something that was beyond life that we weren't really living for the last year.
That is very clever. Thank you for sharing that, not only with us here on this interview, but for millions out there who are going to look at this video at some point. That's very clever, to not just count on what's in your head and what might be in your heart at that moment, but all of these other triggers. That's just beautiful. Now, lyrics. This is another fun topic, and this is where people get stuck sometimes. So what's your thought on the lyrical process here?
My biggest thought on writing lyrics is always that I never ever sit down with an empty page in front of me. It's I think it's devastating to sit down with a guitar or a piano and look at nothing and feel the pressure of wanting to get anything out, and there's just nothing coming. So I lyrics probably is most inspired by just having a regular journal, and also maybe a morning diary or a night diary, just anything to write down words during the day that is completely pressure free, so that when I sit down with my instrument, there are lines and words and phrases or titles that I can go to. And they can be on my phone, they can be in my actual journal that I carry with me, that I'm having in front of me right now, as always. And I fill these like crazy, and most of it is not good for anything, but it kind of clears my system. And I have these pages that are simply collections of song titles that I'd like to use, or just words that I pick up randomly, and they don't have to be anything. There's no pressure. But then when the inspiration comes and I sit down, I can look at words and I don't feel like I'm just trying desperately to come up with something. But also tools like looking up synonyms, looking up even phrases like synonym phrases, and a website called Related Words is just kind of, especially if you're not a native speaker, just expands your, like, it helps you get over the language barrier of trying to say something and making it sound a little bit kind of elevated. That makes sense.
It does. And I think that's genius too. You have all these prompts that are written down. And so you're kind of capturing the inspiration while it's there instead of having to force the process. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
kind of write now. What am I going to write about? But if you get it all there. Now, you brought an interesting point up that I really hadn't thought about. How many journals do you have that are stacked up just pieces of songs that are someday going to be a masterpiece?
So I started journaling, like, I always have one journal that's like my like constant journal until it's full, that I take with me to college, to work, anywhere. Um, and then I also write 3 pages in the morning of just my thoughts. So, and then I have a journal. It's just for organizing my music releases, and then it's a lot. But I think altogether, I probably have around 30 full journals at this point. It's
Wow,
a lot of words,
you sound
but
like I do the same thing. You sound like me. And it's fun to look back on these things a couple of years
yeah,
later and think, who's that person? That does not sound like me.
yes,
But
yes.
it's interesting. So the third component of your video has to do with melody.
Mm-hmm. That is honestly the one that I struggle with most, probably. I think melody is something that many people are gifted with. Just it is a talent to find good, to be a good melody writer. But I think most songwriters that I know, we usually just start playing chord progressions and humming along to it. And for me, it's as soon as I have the progression, the way I like explain it is, to me, chords, sounds, everything has a color. So like textures, landscapes, everything has a color, and the same goes for chords. So I will usually map out the chord progression I'd like for the verse, the pre-chorus, the chorus, the bridge. And then once I'm happy with that, because it matches the color of the vision that I created on the board. So basically, a specific progression will sound maybe too green, and until it's blue enough, I won't start actually writing the top line melody, which is like what the lead vocal is going to be doing. So I'll find out the chord progression first that has the right color of the song that I'm envisioning, and then I'm just going to mumble along until I have a top line that I think is a good lead vocal melody, and then I'll actually put the phrases that I have into it. It's a big puzzle piece, or it's like sewing like a suit or something.
It is,
Everything has to come together. Yeah.
and I love this. And you're right. At the beginning of the interview, you talked about the fact that there's no right or wrong way to do any of these things. And everybody has to find a way that works for them. But you found a way that works beautifully for you. And I think you're going to help an awful lot of people with your process. They're going to take what you do and figure out a way to make it work for them. So that is just beautiful. Thank
I
you.
just remember, oh, thank you so much for having me. I remember when I was younger, like 14, when I started feeling a fire if I want to do music, and I tried to find resources of how the artists that I was like obsessed with at that time were writing music, and there was no real information of how like people kind of make amazing things. And I'm nowhere near the amazing artists I was looking up to, but still I think we would all benefit, like in the creative community, if we talked a little bit more openly about how we get to where we are, because everything's kind of secretive everyone has their secret of how they do things, and it's so beautiful to share and expand our abilities, I think.
And that's what Hands of Grace, Ray of Light, and Heart of Indie Radio is all about, is all you indie artists sharing information and not having to continue to reinvent the same wheel.
Yeah.
Build on each other's experiences. And one of the things that we're going to start talking about a little more is not just how to do things, but what doesn't work. We're going to be having you artists creating videos about how to do certain things, but also it's just as okay to do a video about how it doesn't work. Hey, I tried this, please don't go this route, this does not work. How not to do it is just as important as how to do it. So yeah. Thank you so much for creating such an incredible video. And I know it's going to help so many out there. So let's talk about your music for just a second. Oh my goodness. So remind our listeners what instruments you play.
I play guitar and piano and harmonica, and that's all.
Like blues harmonica or?
Yeah, actually, but I never play in a band or like a folk duo, so I didn't really use it in my personal stuff. But I'd love to actually play harmonica a bit more often. It makes me really happy. It's a fun instrument.
That's kind of fun that we play the same instruments. Blues harmonica. See?
Nice.
Anyway, so your music that we promoted on the station was A Million Times, which people love to death. But you got a couple other original tracks out there, Power and Beautiful Lies, that you're teasing us with on your YouTube platform. When are those going to become available?
Well, that's the thing. Everything I put on YouTube, I put aside because I don't think it's good enough to be released as a single. But who knows in the future? Maybe once I put together a bigger project like an EP or something, I'll go back to the songs that are already floating on the internet. But I can promise you that the songs that you don't know yet are a lot better than what's on YouTube. So I really appreciate it. I just YouTube is such a just kind of authentic way of just being like, this is what I'm working on at the moment, and it might not lead to anything, but here's a song I wrote. But I tend to keep the songs that I want to release properly as a studio recording private until it's time, and it's time very soon for the next song. I'm quite excited. Yeah.
So everybody, do you hear the hint there? She's got more material. She just haven't told us about it yet. So are you going to be in the studio anytime soon?
This song is actually all done, and I will tell you now that it's going to be out on the 12th of November, and I haven't shared that yet with anyone, but it's less than a month. It's a song called Lights Out, and I am extremely excited. It feels like with A Million Times I was close to hitting the target, but with this one I'm really happy with where I am. And it's probably the first time this is the best place I've been in my life, probably, like looking at my art, what I'm creating. I am so excited to share this. I really, really genuinely am so excited, and I can't even stop talking about it.
I'm excited for you just listening. So what's Lights Out about? Just briefly.
Wow, it's basically about the sweet spot of breaking up with someone, but it's about the friendship of the love ends, but how am I going to continue on without you as a friend, and without the memories we made together? They're singular and we can't return to that. And it's a peaceful letting go song, and it's about it's very inspired by a hike I did with a boyfriend at that time. I'm getting a call at the moment. I'm so sorry about that.
It shows up how old you are.
I was hiking for a long time with someone I was in a relationship with, and it's very inspired by the late summer France and Croatia and Italy. It's a good end to summer and a good introduction to winter, I think, and letting go, new seasons and changes. It's a million times was quite sad. I can admit that. So Lights Out is a lot more positive and peaceful, I think.
So it's kind of a healing song. So I can't wait for that. That's exciting. I was going to tease you with that title for just a second, because we're headed down this path in just a second. But Lisa Marie Presley, that's Elvis Presley's daughter, did a song about Lights Out.
Really?
About Dad in Memphis, and
Wow.
So I was just gonna. That's why I asked, "What's the song about?" Because really, it's a whole different thing. But I'm gonna give you a little compliment here in front of the whole world. Ready?
Yeah.
I've never done this before, and I just know I'm gonna have a lot of people coming at me, but that's okay. When they hear it, they'll understand. So you did a cover. Let me
Yeah.
preface this by saying I'm a huge, huge, huge Elvis fan. One of the biggest collectors in North America. I've got every record ever released.
Wow.
Lots of memorabilia, a lot of things Elvis, and I've just never really appreciated impersonators. It just didn't do anything for me. I want the real thing. I want the king.
Mhm.
You did a cover of one of his songs, "In the Ghetto,"
Yes,
and it lives on YouTube.
it
It,
does.
it is the most beautiful cover that I've ever heard of any Elvis song. And
Yeah.
the vocals are just so beautifully done. The acoustic guitar is so beautifully done. And honestly, I was like, oh, she just outdid the king of rock and roll with his own song.
I don't think I did that, but thank you so much.
It takes
Thank
it takes a lot of humility for me to say that, but
you.
if anybody's going to beat the king, I'm glad it's one of our own artists. So congratulations, you did a great job. You should polish that up and finish that, and go ahead and
Thank
release
you
it
so
some.
much.
Maybe it's a bonus track or something.
Maybe.
That would,
Yeah.
that'd be kind of cool. But anyway, good job on that. And you listeners, if you haven't heard her cover of "In the Ghetto," you owe it to yourself to go check that out. It's so beautifully done.
Thank you so much.
Emmeline, thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about your songwriting process, a little about your music, a little teaser about Lights Out coming.
Oh yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. So how may people find you online?
Online, all my domains are at emmelinegracie.com or on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, anything you like. It's all the same. Very simple.
Very easy. We love it when artists just use one handle across all
Yes.
the platforms. It makes our
Yeah.
life so much easier to help promote you. But some have a different one for every platform, and that's a lot of work.
Tricky. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right. So we are now going to get back to the music right here at Heartofindieradio. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much.